18 months of property price falls. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Got my second coffee for the day and I thought we'd have a look at this ABC article where economists are predicting or warning 18 months of Sydney home price falls. Now for those of you that are not aware, we have a little... Oh, wrong chart. Well, building approvals are down. We have a little obsession with property prices here in Australia. Just a little one. We're a little property obsessed. Most of our TV shows are all about property in one way or another. There's government incentives to keep property at a higher value. It keeps you, good little citizen if you're in deep debt. And the government love their stamp duty, so they can spend it on things to buy your votes. So it's a vicious little cycle. Now, many people have been predicting property falls. The Commonwealth Bank predicted up to a 30% fall, where the going average now seems to be 10% fall over the coming few months. We've just seen this morning that JobKeeper has been extended until December. There's now discussions to extend the job seeker bonus. They really are throwing everything they can at property with all these interventions. It's going to restrict the need for people to have forced sales. And the banks are going to, they're extending some of your loan holidays out until March. I mean, it must be great having a house and not having to pay any of the repayments. So let's have a look. The old school way used to be just to pay off your loan. The pandemic is likely to see Sydney house prices fall for 18 months, an economist warns. 18 months. Sydney property prices will inevitably fall for 18 months, and maybe even beyond that, because of the pandemic, an economist has warned. So it's 1.5 years, she's predicting. 1.5 years. Actually, I need a shot of coffee with this one. While it may not be a sharp drop in prices, BAS Oxford Economics chief economist Sarah Hunter believes a sustained decline in property prices looks inevitable as Australia's borders remained closed. And that's the thing, when people are discussing these, you see the headlines, 30% down, 50% down, property prices predicted, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. If you look back to the Great Depression, just how long it took the market there to fall, we're talking years. So 18 months could be quite a reasonable time frame. The economic conditions are obviously not very challenging right now, and from a demand and affordability to pay perspective, that's a negative. You sort of put those things together and you get falling prices, and we think we're going to see falling prices for at least the next 12 and even 18 months, and maybe beyond that. Demand for rental properties is dropping on the market due to the lack of international students, tourists, and overseas workers living in Sydney. And we've been discussing all of these factors now for months, since the beginning of the year. Where you'd see, obviously from certain media outlets that have a vested interest in property or just paid advertisement, where they're spruiking up property. They're saying it can't go down. All these experts coming on one show after another on the news saying, oh, don't worry, property will be fine. It'll be robust because of this, and this. And then you see prices still start to decline. And these experts have maybe their entire business life and personal identity tied up in their property empire. We might see some landlords look to sell their properties if they can't see a quick resolution to the situation, which does seem likely in the next 12 months. Well, it doesn't, yeah. It does look very challenging. It's not going to be a quick resolution. The most recent figures from property research company SQM Research showed Sydney has the highest rental vacancy rates in the country at 3.8% in June, a 0.2% decline from the previous month. In Sydney's CBD, there were more than 1,200 empty homes in June compared with 764 at the same time last year. So, are we going to see the same capital gains as we have in the past in property? Is property still going to keep going up? With all of these factors, I can't see how. If the dollar value of property even holds, if it even holds. And remember, property really isn't considered, second-hand property isn't calculated properly in CPI. Well, they'll probably inflate away the purchasing value of our wealth, of our savings. What strategies are you doing to prepare for that? Honestly, I think that's a greater risk of what will happen to us than bail-in or any of these other potential issues. Just the inflating our purchasing power to nothing, or to close to nothing, and really impacting the quality of life because of increasing cost of living. I think they'll do it all to appease property. All hail property. Bend the knee to property. I think the odds of us seeing a sharp fall back to vacancy rates to what they were before are very limited until we get a return to much more normal conditions, particularly around migration, Ms. Hunter said. And this is the thing, migration, particularly in Sydney, is a huge driver in property demand. A lot of people go to Sydney and then, frankly, move to a better part of the country. Ray White's Con Magius said a rise in vacancy rates and the number of days a home is on the market was visible. Things are taking about double the amount of time to lease. Double the amount of time. That's going to affect your yield. If you allow for maybe 2 weeks or maybe a month of your property being empty every, hopefully not 6 months, you'd hope not, every year or every other year, and that's doubled, that's going to affect your yield on the property, the value of your investment, the return you can get. And that's going to have an impact on the price. Some of these apartments, these investment apartments, the yield's pathetic. It's like 2%, 3% when you count in all the costs. And then you've got the risk of bad tenants. You've got the risk of dodgy construction, particularly in Sydney. Although there are some reforms happening in Sydney, and I'll have a look at that later. One of the homes he is managing includes a newly renovated 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom terrace in the inner west suburb of Camperdown. It's been on the rental market for 3 weeks now, which he said was unusual. 3 weeks. Traditionally in this area, it's leased in around 14 days. Generally, a house like this would go very quickly because of its condition, its close proximity to the university, and we are also within 4 kilometers of the Sydney CBD. So it's great for professionals, sharers, and students. There you go. Well, the CBD, that demand is going to take a hit. There's going to be a cultural shift. We're working from home. One guy was making a facetious comment on another video. Everyone can just be an architect at home. Well, no, you can't. To protect the title, you've got to do a lot of study and years of postgraduate experience and sit interviews and those type of things. But you could become a drafty at home. You could learn how to animate, how to do renders at home. There's a lot of people that provide that service. I do it all myself. I use Lumion for our animations. There's a market there for that. But the thing is, you'll be competing with offshore workers. So you've got to play the international game. So, and a few dollars per hour overseas, a few Australian dollars per hour, even Australian dollars goes a lot further than over here. What was it? I was watching another YouTuber just discussing how cheap it is for, I think, Steve Keen to live over in Thailand. How much it costs, how much of a house you could get for $100,000 in Thailand. I had another viewer send me the prices of what he was paying for electricity over in Thailand, and it was really depressing how cheap it was. How much cheaper it was than Australia. So our cost of living is pretty high here. And I've met a lot of people that have migrated over to Australia under the false pretense of getting education and getting a good job. They get the education, they pay for it, a master's level degree, and they find there's no work in our country for someone at that level. Or they have difficulty even finding work. They end up doing a lower skilled job. And they're going, well, my quality of life here is worse than when I was back at home. Why am I staying here? Will we start? Here's a question for you. Will we start seeing an exodus of Australians moving overseas, going to Southeast Asian countries where they can retire, where their money can go a lot further? Will we start seeing that? I think that's looking, well, it's more and more discussed in the groups that want to be financially independent and retire early. It seems to be where a lot of the MGTOW men going their own way. That's an option for them. Cash out, Get out of the nation. Go somewhere cheaper. There you go. Will that be next? Will we be reading about that in a couple of years' time before it gets to the mainstream? So, for the first time in years, tenants have the confidence to upsize or look for more affordable options in the rental market. Sydney has recorded declines in asking rents of 7.3% for houses and 6.2% for units in the past year, according to SQM. Chris Buckingham and his 3 housemates took advantage of the opportunity to negotiate a rent reduction in their Petersham house. Good on them. Good work, lads. With the sudden change in everyone's working conditions, the 3 of us on JobKeeper, 1 of us was on a visa, there was a lot of uncertainty, and the best thing we could do was reach out to the landlord and ask if there was anything they could do to help. He admitted the 4 of them did explore cheaper options, but eventually decided to remain in the same house after the landlord agreed to a $100 a week discount on their rent. I mean, the landlord would be crazy to kick them out. And, I mean, moving is a pain in the ass, everyone. We all hate moving. It's a lot of effort. You know, it costs you money, costs you time. So, you know, getting a discount and staying there may be the smartest thing to do. If we didn't get a rent reduction, we were surely going to leave the house. He said it was the first time he'd ever had a rent decrease. First time ever. Have you ever had a rent decrease before the change in the market? I don't think we ever had one when we were renting. It was always, you know, $5 up here, $10 up here every single time. You know, maybe that whole line of property always goes up. Maybe there's a reason why so many people believe that. Because they've never seen property not go up. Just because your sample only contains one bit of data, it doesn't mean other outcomes aren't possible. You know, you've only got 20 years of lived experience where property's only going up and any corrections are tiny. It doesn't mean property will only go up when you've got a recession, when we've got unemployment at the highest level it's been in 28 years, when the global economy is also going in recession. I don't think property can still go up then. You know, I don't think it'd be crazy to argue against the possibility of that. I've been renting for many, many years, and it's the first time that the status quo has been shuffled, he'd said. It's always been one way a bit. The pandemic has given us renters a bit more say. So there we have it, everyone. Predictions of 18 months of property decline, particularly in Sydney. What do you think? Do you think Sydney prices are due for a correction? Do you think they'll take a bit of a hit? Will they become more reasonable? But does property always go up? And what is the next thing the government will do? What will they do to offset this disaster? We can't have 18 months of property declines. Not in Australia. We're special. We're different. Our economy is based on buying houses and making coffee and digging stuff up out of the ground. As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I think I need a bit more coffee. I'm getting a bit tired. Take care. See you now.